think I speak for a lot of people. Like, these months have been draining. Kind of feel like it was like, all right, COVID stuff was happening, and then the racial tensions kind of like escalated to where they are and where they have been the past couple months. For me, I saw in myself a lot of feelings that I've either suppressed, and some of my peers feelings that they have ignored for a long period of time, that finally came to like a tipping point. Like the death of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and the death of Breonna Taylor kind of like took us to this point where it's like we can't ignore these feelings, can't ignore these issues, can't ignore it anymore. And ultimately gave people that probably have been shut out for a long time, gave us some hope. Honestly, first, like having some time to reflect on myself, for like my family, my mentors, my friends, just trying to figure out like ultimately what do I believe in the situation, what do I feel, how am I navigate my own mental health, because I mean it's like traumatizing, like definitely polarizing to see people die on your phone. I think that's not like a light matter. And so even for me, just trying to figure out what does it look like to make some progress or take a step. Then as I've gotten back with my teammates, obviously like we at Clemson know we have a huge platform as football players, and it was just thinking like, hey, how can we do something first, like to unify our own team? Because even within every like organization or family, like this moments like these can create division, and we were trying to figure out how we can bring ourselves together from the jump. And so we had a meeting at Coach Sweeney's house. He called a senior meeting. I felt that was like kind of the beginning of like what came to be with the protest. So it was pretty much like a conversation. And I feel like it was like a conversation that I had been having, of seeing people that are like kind of angry, have a right to be angry for like everything that people of color have endured, like black people have endured over the years, and being in America. And then the opposite is true. It's people that are like maybe have benefited from the way things are, have been able to ignore some of the harshness or like the sad realities of how America is. And I feel like I was able to see people that are angry kind of get some healing. So I feel like it's awesome to be heard. I feel like a lot of black people, I feel like they haven't been heard in a long, long time. And so that conversation was good, man. It was like the first like kind of affirmation step, like for a couple of guys in a room that were dreaming about things, to just ultimately to, hey, this is a step. And like in that moment, like we cried, we laughed, but ultimately it was like it was relational. I feel like the biggest thing is like in a relational context, like somebody can be angry about an issue, somebody can be ignorant about an issue, but at the end of the day, like, you know, it's family, you know, you're gonna come together, you know, you're gonna unite at the end of the day. And so that was like a moment for us to be like, all right, let's work for the senior group, so let's do it for the whole team. And I think everybody, like, even some of the guys who may not express their feelings, everybody was feeling something. And at the end, I feel like just like the senior meeting, I felt we became a family. Like, guys had different views, but at the same time, people were heard. Some people that felt like they hadn't been heard, like, were able to express their feelings. Other people that have grown up in a certain way, like, they were able to see, like, maybe that's not the best way to continue on a legacy. And so in that moment, I felt like our team got stronger. And then from there, it was like, all right, how can we unify our community? There was a protest in Anderson and a protest in Greenville. And so we were like, let's do one in Clemson. And it was amazing how it all came together. Like, I was super shocked, because I mean, a lot of us, man, we just like, we kind of had some ideas, but it was awesome to see like all of our staff kind of put our vision into like a practical way to where we could pull it off. And so it was cool to see, like, man, every angle I feel like of campus from the top down was able to be involved and to come show support. Then people in the community that are live in Clemson, live in the area, were able to come and support, and alumni, everything in between, and just to take a stand. Like, and it was probably one of my top 5 moments personally for me being a football player here at Clemson. It was a moment just like of a lot of emotion, but also like a lot of hope. We got so many messages from people like that started doing protests around the country. Other schools kind of followed suit, and it was cool to see Clemson, like, once again just be the example of how to go about adversity and change and do it the right way. I do feel more empowered. One is just like, as a young man, but also as like a football player, as an athlete. Ultimately seeing like we didn't want to make it just a moment. Like, we even said that so many times, like, shame on us if we don't do anything going forward. And I don't think we have to figure it all out 20 years ahead, but ultimately thinking about, man, I think we have a part to play in this moment right now that's going to matter in our days to come, and just figuring like, hey, all right, so that dream is going to lead to another dream, and that dream lead to another dream. A lot of people look at us and see us as examples, and we want to do our best job of like stewarding that well. And so, yeah, I mean, I think the days are brighter ahead, and hopefully we're paving the way for athletes behind us to feel like they have more of a voice in Clemson and the country, of just seeing how they can like ultimately use their platforms, use their voices, and also look within and see like how can they affect change in the world, because I feel like it's definitely doable and it's needed.
When you look back at the protests, is there a moment you could pinpoint where you were just like, wow?
You just see all these people start coming out the woods and walking on the Bowman, and I remember all of us were on stage at that time, kind of game planning like how we were going to start the event. And I mean, me, Trev, Mike, and Cornell, we were like, man, like, bro, this is really happening, and people really came out to support this cause. And just seeing how much ground we covered, like, man, we really did, like it was, a lot of people came out to support the energy, like, because ultimately, like, we were more than we were creating something, we were kind of facilitating the energy that was already happening. Like, I think this was happening in so many people's hearts, and we kind of like wanted to be the ones to create the space for it to happen in a unifying way instead of to create more division.
Moving forward, what does change look like for you?
I think it means like, one, just continuing to like self-reflect, because I feel like ultimately it's like you lead from the heart, and from the heart out, things happen in the world. This thing became a trend, which led to a lot of positive awareness, a lot of action that took place, a lot of things that like happen on social media. But I feel like the next place that it needs to move to in order for it to sustain momentum and to sustain a movement is like, how do we proactively look for solutions and not just wait for the next person to die? Obviously, we're using our platforms, but at the end of the day, like, everybody has opportunities in their lifetime, in their days, in their weeks, their workplaces, where they live, all the interactions you have to like do something positive, ultimately to move the needle forward. I feel like everybody has a lane they can run in. Ultimately, like, I feel like the days ahead, like, we want to make change. I feel like every person has to take like this ownership and responsibility over like, I'm either being a part of the problem or part of the solution. Change really happens when you can make long-term goals of things that'll outlast my career, but hopefully help the next person that comes in, the next freshman, ultimately the next 10 years or whatnot. Just systems you can set in place, programs you can set in place, things you can support that are going to like outlast like just a moment. I think for us, it's just seeing how during the season we can continue to like raise awareness and then continuing the conversation. I feel like at the end of the day, like, that's where it all starts. I feel like there's still conversations that need to be had and need to be ongoing, as far as like seeing how like everybody needs to just continue to like have some self-inventory of where you are in the whole spectrum of like being part of the solution or being part of the problem. I feel like there's no bystanders in this, and I feel like nobody graduates from the idea of just like how am I playing my part? I think it's important to fight for all of humanity, and it's been cool to see humanity stand up for things that are right and fight against things that aren't. And so just helping people see that ultimately we're all human, nobody's invincible from these things, and we all got to come together. So I would just say, like, my personal experiences with everything that's happened and everything that's kind of uprisen with like the conversations has just been like, I feel like as Black people, inherently, like, from everything that's happened over history, like, we're taught more to survive than to live. And you're in this like defense mode, like, you are taught from a young age how to do certain things that maybe you probably you don't really want to have a discussion with a young person about, because you feel like it shouldn't be a thing. But for like Black people, it is. It really is easier not to dive into some messy stuff. But at the same time, I feel like deep down, I feel like everybody wants to do the right thing. I always encourage people to like do the right thing and not look away. It's helping people see, like, just because of the color of your skin, like, the world shouldn't be that much different for you. Obviously, work hard, all those things, like, don't exempt people from having character, but at the same time, there shouldn't be like this obstacle course you have to go through and somebody else doesn't, strictly because of the color of your skin. I would say just privilege is like awareness of like something you've been given. And I would say, like, obviously one of the most common things is like white privilege. And I would say people, if you are aware of that, which I feel like hopefully this situation has given you like some context to why you should be aware of that, is I would say use it. It's a weapon that can be used for a lot of good, or it can be ignored and you can just benefit off it for your own good. There's also other privileges, and I feel like for me, if you've been given something, you have a responsibility to do something with it that benefits those that have not. And I feel like that's the biggest lesson I've learned in all this, and I've seen people that have had white privilege or realize they have white privilege stand up and speak up for those who don't have that privilege. And at the same time, I've seen people with platforms, influence, resources step up and use those privileges for the greater good. And I would just say that's a message for, I think, for everybody, is realizing, hey, what do you have and what are you doing with it? And ultimately, like, it's not just for your benefit or your good, like, it's ultimately for, you've been given it, hopefully, so you can do something with it for the greater good of people. And then hopefully for the next generation coming behind us, like, we'll have better days than they had, or they'll have better days than we had. And that should be the goal, to continue to move it forward until who knows when.